So, hi, welcome to this video on something a bit different. We're going to be showing you how we're going to do some metal work, specifically how we're going to do some steel conduit work, something that in a domestic environment you don't tend to see a lot of. It's more to do with commercial and industrial, but it is made a lot of in the colleges and on apprenticeships, and when I was doing mine, this was made up a lot of the course, this and doing tray work and trunking and all that sort of stuff, and there was a big part of practical part of the exam which lasted nearly all day, so they do make a lot of it in the courses and stuff, but like I say, isn't really used that much in a domestic setting. So first of all, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the tools that I used in doing this. There's a lot more tools than you would use for a normal PVC conduit. As you can see, anyone who's done this, they'll notice there's one tool that is actually conspicuous by its absence, and that's the conduit bender. We're not doing any bending today, and to be honest with you, I haven't got one. Mainly because, like I say, I don't do a lot of this stuff. All this stuff is going to be used for a project actually in our house, actually in our summer house, in fact. And there's going to be no bending involved. I'll just cover the actual bender, which I'll put a picture up here in the corner. It's not exactly portable. It's very heavy and costs an awful lot of money. They cost between £200 and £300 new. Even second hand, they're not cheap. You can get handheld ones as well, and they are a lot cheaper, but obviously they aren't as flexible as these ones that are, as I've shown in the picture, that are freestanding. So we're not going to do any pipe bending. What we are going to be doing is chopping up this 3-metre piece of 20mm steel conduit you can see on it. It's a galvanised steel conduit, I might add. And these are the tools that we're going to be using to cut it, and then we're going to be threading the ends, and we'll explain why we're going to be threading the ends later in the video. Okay, so let's go through the first thing that you'll need. The first thing is obviously this thing here, which is 3 metres long. It probably goes out both sides of the camera view. This is 20mm steel conduit, galvanised, like I said before. When you get it delivered, you'll normally find that it'll be threaded at one end, threaded at both ends, sorry. And at this end you'll have one of these couplers. Now these couplers are essential when you're doing conduit work. It's these that connect to everything, and we'll show that in a second. So these are called couplers, and they're threaded on the inside. Obviously they're threaded on the outside at either end of the steel bar, the steel conduit and the steel bar. And essentially that means that when you start cutting, you've got one thread already done for you. Obviously you've got to thread all the rest. So let's go through the very first thing that's here, which you can see right in front of me, which is this. This is a pipe vise. You can use an ordinary vise, but because this is round, what you'll find when you're trying to cut it is that it'll rotate, and it's not great. This has got special jaws, which the conduit fits into. It actually latches up like that, so you can put the steel conduit in, go down, there you go, and that latches into place. When that goes into there, which we'll show you in a minute, you tighten that down and that holds it into place. Now it won't move, really won't move. Now I've, as you can see, mounted it to my my workbench here, which I carry around quite a bit. So this can actually be taken off here, and this is actually portable. This can actually be taken around. It is heavy, don't get me wrong, but this can be taken off, and I can take it to site, which is great if I had to do it. So conduit going through there, tightened down, isn't going to move. Next thing you're going to need something to mark it with, which is, I think, fairly obvious. Marker pen. This will mark on steel conduit. So you need one of those. You're going to need a metal ruler or a tape measure. I've got a metal ruler here, and I use that to do the measuring with. Now for cutting, you are not going to get a junior hacksaw to cut through this. That isn't going to happen. So what you need is one of these. This is called a engineering hacksaw. This will go through that like a knife through butter, and I'll show you how it might sound odd, but we've actually taught how to use this properly. So I will try and remember that when we do the cutting bit, and we'll see how it's done. Next thing you're going to need is one of these odd looking things. This is a deburring tool. You are going to need this, because once you've cut this off, you're going to have a lot of burrs on the end. Believe me, you don't want to touch those, because you will cut your fingers to shreds even. So you've got to deburr the inside, because you start shoving singles through this. Yes, you shove singles through this just as you would PVC conduit. You don't put twin and earth through this. You're going to shred the coverings on that. You're going to bare copper, pipe's going to go live. It's going to make your life a misery, and anybody else. So you must deburr it, and that's what this is used for, but we'll show you how that's used later. Right, what else we got here? Obviously, yeah, good idea to wear gloves. Definitely when you're going around, when you're doing this sort of stuff, protect your hands. Right, what else we got here? Yep, cutting compound. Got this in a tube. Can come in tinned. You might do it with a brush. Highly recommend using this when you're doing this. Increases the life of the tools, makes the cutting a heck of a lot easier. So we'll be using that as well. Let's move that out of the way. Oh, that, I've lost it. This deburring tool I got it from Amazon. Comes with a lot of extra blades and things. This doesn't have to be used on metal conduit. It can be used on plastic as well. So, and wood for that matter. Right. You might be wondering why we've got a hammer. I'll show you why in a minute. Now, what's in here, you may be asking. Well, this is the clever piece of kit. This is the die cutting kit. Now, what this does is it cuts the threads on the end of the conduit. Comes in kit form, and basically comes in lots of different parts. So we've got a 20mm die, we've got a 25mm die, so we're going to be using the 20. Comes in, as I say, comes in bits. So to put it together, take these off first. Those two, one there. On there. Then you want your 20mm guide, which is that one. That's what's in there, like that. Put it down there just for a second. So we'll get the 20mm die out. In here. Bit of a safety tip here: don't touch the inside here. They are incredibly sharp, and you'll end up putting a thread on your finger. Don't touch the inside. So that these little divots here line up there and there. Push it in. There we go. Get your screws again. Screws again. Right, screw those down. That's one. And two. So that's now in place. Get the arms, screw those on. Yes, I know I'm not wearing my gloves at this point. Get that one screwed on that end. When it gets on there. There. That's the tool all assembled. And basically the conduit will go in that end there. You do your die cutting, your thread cutting at that point, and we'll demonstrate how this tool is used in a moment when we start cutting this all up. That is how this all goes together. Right, so I'll put that to one side. So put this away. You might think, why am I showing you it's just the reverse? Well, it kind of is. So I'll just open that up. So we'll take the arms off. And there we go. There. The other thing I'll say about this in just a second. Just take that arm off there. There we go. Bring up and do those. And there. And there. This, the die is in tight. What I would suggest you do, rather than trying to get it out and risking ripping your fingers apart, push it out from the back like that. There's your guide. Guide goes back in the box. There we go. You've got your die out, back into your plastic case, seal that, back in, nice and safe. So we'll get this all screwed back together. So, back in there, close the box up, done. There we go, all done. Once you've done all that, you've got your conduit cut to length, you've got your threads cut, you're going to want to connect it up to your accessories. Now we're going to demonstrate this one. Some of the accessories, like your bends that you can get and your junction boxes, they will have their threads already pre-done on the inside, and you just get your conduit, screw them straight in. But when you're doing accessory boxes like this, these won't be done for you. So what you need to do for these is you'll have bushes, and these are brass bushes. I'll show you how they go in a second. Now that's a brass bush that goes inside your accessory. This goes on the end of the conduit, that screws into the conduit, and that goes in the accessory and screws into that. So we'll just show you exactly how that works. Just give me a second. And we'll come to the very last tool, the eagle eyes amongst you might have noticed that I haven't explained yet. And there's one to come. So we've got this here. I'll just undo it so you can see what we're doing. So there we go. So there's, so you knock out, so you knock out your hole. There it is. You knock that out. Put your bush in. If you can get it in. Can be a bit tight sometimes if it's burred. Another reason why you deburring tool. Yeah, but you can say, there we go. Right, so that goes in there. You've got this on the end of, so you get that. Now you might think, well, if you're turning that, you're turning the entire conduit. I'm just doing this on here. What you would be doing is you'd be turning the bush on the inside. And you think to yourself, well, how on earth am I going to get anything in there to tighten that bush up? Well, that's what this tool's for. This is called a bush wrench, and it's got, you might be able to see, there's slightly different sizes on either side. We're going to use this side. But this goes in there. This would be on the wall, so it'd be nice, easier to do. Goes on there. So there we go. Got it. Goes on there and turns the bush. So, and tightens it up. And it'll actually go past that screw point there. Keep going till it's tight. Done. And that's what that is done. There we go. So those are all the tools that you'll be using for putting steel conduit into a installation. Now obviously there are other things. You've got your saddles, metal saddles that will go on this. I probably won't be using, because the distances between the different accessories I've got, these, it's quite short, so they probably won't be needed. But you'd have your saddles. If you needed to have your saddles, you put your saddles on. And we've also got, I will just get it. Now for the summerhouse installation, because we can't go up the wall with a fixed piece of conduit because it's a log cabin, we've got to use this metal flexible stuff. And again, it's exactly the same. It's got a screwed thing there, you get your coupler, stick it on the end, couple it on, done. Nice and easy. This will go into the consumer box that's in there, straight up there. It's got a nut there, screw that down, done. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to start marking this piece of conduit up, and we're going to start showing you how we're going to mark it up and we're going to cut it, and then we'll show you how we put the threads on, put the fluid on, and how we start getting this all put together. Right, so cleared all the stuff away and got this all prepared, ready to start work. So I've got the die cutter all set up, already done one already, just to try it out, just to make sure that everything is all working properly, there's no problems with the die cutter or anything else. So this length I've already done. As you can see, this is the thread that was already cut. Do that just to show. There, and I've got a bush just to prove it's all correct. Well, I haven't cut that thread too long. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the other piece of conduit, put it in the vise. No, we're not. We're going to get the conduit, put it on the table, we're going to mark it up. This is the length that we're actually done, but I will show you how to get the measurements right between accessories. You'll see why in a second. We're going to get it cut using the engineering hacksaw, get it put in the vise, get the thread cut to it to the right length, and then we're going to try and fit it on to the accessories. Hopefully that will all work. Right, so we've got the conduit up on the bench. Now we're going to start measuring and getting it cut to the right lengths. As you can see, we're using the end where the thread was already supplied for us, so we only need to put the thread on one end. Now when you're measuring conduit to go between accessories, like these for example, you have to take into account that you're going to be threading into these couplers. So if you've got a length or distance between accessories that's got to be around 350mm, let's just say for example, that conduit is only going to thread around halfway into these. It's not going to butt up against the accessories, which means if you did that 350, you won't be there to there, you'll be out here somewhere. You'll be 30mm too long. So when you make the measurements, you've got to take account of the fact of the couplers, and if you're going between two, you have to take the entire coupler length, because you'll be down halfway on one side and halfway down the other. So in our case, 350 minus 30, we want to measure actually 320. Very important to remember that, otherwise your accessories won't actually be in the right place on the wall. So I've already done the marks on here. I'll just get the pen to show you. So you want to do 4 or 5 marks around the conduit. Now the reason for doing that is you want to make sure that this is perfectly perpendicular in all the directions when you're cutting this. Very important, because if you don't and it's ski-whiff, then when you do the die cutting to cut the thread won't be in the right place, it'll be all wonky, your couplers won't fit, and you're going to have to start all over again. And believe me, this piece will then go in the bin. It's useless, it's going to be no good to anybody. Very important. So we're going to get this mounted up in the pipe vise, and we're going to just get the engineering hacksaw. We're going to get some of this on, some of this working fluid to make it life a bit easier. Then we're going to get the rag, wrap it around the conduit so we don't get the marks on the conduit from the jaws, and I'll show you how to use the engineering hacksaw the right way. There's a wrong way and a right way, believe me there is. I'll show you how to do it properly. I'll also get my gloves on. Right, let's get it, move that out of the way, let's give us a bit of space here. So let's get this on here, so I'm going to lift that up out of the way. I'll put the rag on in a second, once I've got this in the right position. There we go. Right. Put that down there. Let's move that. There we go. Okay, let's bring that down. Away from those joints. And let's get away from that. As it won't go down properly. There, that should do it. That's on. Right, let's tighten that down. That's not going anywhere. Right, let's get the cutting fluid on. Let that just run around the edge like that. That'll be fine. There we go. Right, gloves. Put my gloves on. There we go. Oh, good. Right. There we go. Okay. So, first thing you need to do, you need to get your guide so that you can start cutting it properly. So bring it in, make a little groove to get it started, and there we go. Now, you don't go like a demented slug. Full length of the blade, nice and slow strokes, and it should be a nice straight cut. Keeping an eye on the marks all the way down. There we go. Right, let's have a look. Oh yeah, that is pretty good. I'm happy with that. Right, next thing you do, you get your deburring tool. You need to deburr. Sorry if my hand's in the way, but you need to deburr all around the inside. You can see the burrs. You might be able to see the burrs coming off actually. There we go. That is pretty good, pretty good. Right, let's get rid of the conduit. And there we go. Absolutely no marks or blemishes on that whatsoever. Let's get that out of the way. There we go. So we're going to do the threading on this now. So just mount that up into there. Don't want it too long, too far along. Okay. Needs to be out a little bit further. Here's the tool we're going to be using. There we go. Make sure it's really tight on this bit, because when you're going to be doing the die cutting, it's going to try and rotate this. It really is going to try and rotate it a lot. So, die cutting, nice and simple. Again, get the cutting fluid. We'll put quite a bit on, because we're going to be doing. So it's not going to go that far down, but there you go. Now, you've seen how I set this up earlier in the video. That's all set up, ready to go. So this goes on that way, and we're going to be doing clockwise rotations. You're going to see what I do. So the first thing you've got to do, you've got to get it started. Put it in, push it on, push it nice and hard, and start to turn. Try and make sure that it is parallel with the thing, with the conduit. Just do a couple of turns and it'll start to bite quite easily. Do a couple of turns to start with and then I'll show you what you do. See, and did you see? That conduit then turned then. Now I'm going to tighten this up a bit more. There we go. Like that. So, a couple more, another turn. And then you need to come back quarter to half a turn, which will get rid of the, you might have seen it, piece coming up, to get rid of the swarf and stuff. You can start cutting again. So do about 3 or 4 turns. And then back quarter half turn or so, just to get rid of the swarf that goes on cutting. And we'll carry on. Another one. And back. Let's go back a bit more actually. Oh, you can see it all coming out, can't you? Okay, so back we go. Another 3 or 4. Oh, there you see it moved, the conduit moved again. Which really makes sure that's tight. Now you might be wondering, how do I know when to stop? Well, hopefully you'll be able to see on the video, if not I'll zoom it in slightly. There's 2 marks here on these screws. You want to bring the end of the conduit to the very first groove on these screws, and then you know you've cut to the right distance. We go again. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's tight. As you can see, my worktop probably isn't the most stable on there. Never mind. Right, do it again. Get it on. We're nearly at the right depth or length, whichever way you want to go look at it. We're nearly there. Back to, I would say, another turn or 2. I'll probably do it. One. That's it. Right, I'm going to unravel it, turn it, pick them off nice and easy. We'll do in the end. There we go. Come on, off you go. Off you go. There we go. Right. So there's your thread. The thread's called cut. And just to prove that it's cut correctly, is one of the couplers. Screw that on. And just to prove, take these gloves off for this bit, just to prove that I've not overcut it. Ooh, if I can get the gloves off, I will. There we go. One of the bushes that's going to screw into. I'm going to screw it in the end. Yes, I will do when it goes. There we go. Absolutely flush. No problem at all. That's that particular piece all done. That's now threaded onto there. And just to prove, I'll just thread this one onto this end. So there we go. So just to prove, where's the tape measure on? Whee, there we go. So I said this whole this length from here to here between the accessories should be 350. Remember, I cut this conduit at 320. It's a smidgen over 350. It's 355 in actual fact. So not bad. Now the reason for that is probably that the thread on this end that was already provided for me, as you can probably see, is actually quite short. So that's the reason why the nut is not quite halfway, that's why that's out. So I could have actually just extended that thread a bit and then it would be exactly right. So what I did was right, but I was assuming that this was right. I didn't do that bit on that end. So that is how you do that. It's actually reasonably straightforward. All you've got to remember is make sure you put a cloth or something in these jaws. They are quite sharp. Make sure this is totally tight down. It's tight to the bench you're working on, and then it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to carry on, get all the other ones cut. I've got about 4 or 5 of these to cut, but I hope that's been useful on seeing how to do this and some of the things that you've got to watch for. And we'll see you on the next video.